Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? If you've ever wanted to know what it was like to go from M.B.A. to J.D. to unlocking the key to investing passively, even as a high-paid professional, then guess what? Today's conversation is the one that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. I promise. You know what? Because today's guest grew up in a blue-collar family in West Virginia. That from there he went to medical school, and then from there to big law, and then from big law into entrepreneurship. You know what? And also he decided to get his MBA in 2010, and as if that wasn't enough, he got his JD in 2013. By the way, he graduated in the top 12% of his class, cum laude. That's pretty awesome. He's also passionate about educating others on how to passively invest in commercial real estate so that they can live the lives and have the freedom to focus on their own businesses and or careers. He's the managing partner at Bradley Law Limited and Law Capital Partners, and he's the host of the amazingly popular podcast, the Passive Income Attorney Podcast. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Seth Bradley. Seth, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Billy, thanks for having me on, brother. You crushed that intro, man. I don't know where your guys found that info. I feel like you read my resume, dude. Like
you are the man. We're ready for this one. Nah, this is going to be a lot of fun, man. And you dropped so much knowledge, and I love the things that you're doing, man, and just the way that you're focused on adding value to people. And I know that the Going Long family is going to learn and learn so much from you and be able to take a lot of practical, tactical tools away, as well as the strategy. So with that, listen, Seth, we're going to jump into it. And, you know, I like to ask 2 questions in the beginning, 3 at the very end, and then you and I are going to get to know you even better so that the Going Long family can connect with you in the middle. So, but the first thing is, help us understand, where is it that you live in the United States?
I live in one of the most beautiful places, if not the most beautiful place in the United States, and that's sunny San Diego, California. 75 and sunny year round, best weather anywhere. My favorite city, beautiful San Diego. I've been in and out of here really since 2009. Moved around for some jobs and some different opportunities, but San Diego is where I call home.
I love San Diego, and it's one of the places that my wife says, if we ever lived in the United States, like that would be one of the places that's as close to Barcelona, and she loves it.
It is. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are similar to Barcelona. I've been to Barcelona. It's beautiful, and the weather's pretty similar. And a lot of people compare it to one another. They're almost like sister cities because of the beach culture and the party culture and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. You got a guy from West Virginia and Ohio who are decided to go and live in nice sunny places. So this is awesome. So listen, man. So also understanding where you are living in the U.S. Also, we'd love to know, like, Seth, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Let's see. Most positive thing is probably I've been after this seller for a few weeks now to get access to this property, and he's actually a Russian guy, and he's totally unplugged. Can't find him on the internet. Can't find him anywhere. I finally tracked him down and got my team to be in there to see an 80 unit property today. So I'm pretty excited about how that's going to go down.
Oh, fantastic, man. Congratulations. So you got him. You're able to
track him down.
You got the team in there, and now you're getting the action going. I love that.
That's right.
Awesome. Cool. So we're building some momentum, and so would love to just maybe take a quick pause. And I try to do my best in the beginning, just giving some highlights at like a 50,000 foot level. And I know that it's impossible to tell your whole story the way that you're going to tell it. So what I would love for you to do, Seth, is if you can help me and the Going Long family get to know more about you, if you can tell us your backstory, and also if you can maybe highlight some of the major decisions that you've made to get to this point in your journey, and then you and I will take the conversation from there.
Sure, man. I like to say it just took me a long time to figure this entrepreneurship game out. I mean, I grew up in West Virginia in, the bluest of collars. My dad was a coal miner. My mom's a school teacher. And, all I knew was kind of get the best job you could possibly get, right? I mean, I just grew up thinking, get the best W-2 job you can get. And for me, growing up, it was be a doctor. That's just kind of how I thought about it. And I don't know if that's simple-minded or what, but that's how I thought of it. And that's just a pathway that I went on, not because I had a passion for it, not for anything else. It was just, that's the best W-2 job I can get. So I went down that pathway. Actually went to med school for about a year and 2 weeks before I realized, man, what the hell am I doing here? This is not, it's not what I want to do. So I literally got up in the middle of class and just left 2 weeks into my second year. Tried to figure it out. I had no idea what I was going to do at that point. Started getting my M.B.A. just because I thought that could apply to just about anything that I go to. And I think at that point is when I started getting exposed to, business folks and, business minds and maybe a little bit outside of outside of the W-2 mindset a little bit, but I was still stuck there. And in the meantime, I was like, okay, well, what's the next best job I can get? And to me, it was become a lawyer. So I went to law school after I finished my MBA and kind of went down that traditional pathway of, getting the best job out of law school at a big law firm, worked there for 6 years. And during that time is when I started kind of having those aha moments that we start having. The first one is just, I'm a real estate attorney by trade. So I was closing these huge deals. I mean, $100 million plus financing, things like that. And you meet these clients, you meet these guys that are coming to the office to close the deals, and they're just regular guys. They're like you and me, Billy. They're not Donald Trump or somebody like that. That's just, somebody you put on a pedestal. I don't know if you put Donald Trump on a pedestal. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I'll probably.
Yeah. One of these guys is just like, they're just regular dudes. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I'm advising you on how to close this deal. Maybe I should be on the other side of the table, getting the equity rather than being the service provider as the attorney on the deal. So that was kind of like one of the things that got the wheels started for me. And then the second one was, I always had the idea of, I'm going to work in big law. I'm going to become a partner, put all your hours in, just live a good life. But man, you saw these guys that are partners in the firm and they're, 70 years old, still at the firm, still billing tons of hours, still just work. And it's like, man, they're making a lot of money, but it's like, for what reason at this point? Like, why are they still there? I mean, they should have retired on that money or whatever. But I think what happens is you get trapped in that, the golden handcuffs to start out with as you're young and, you're spending every dollar you get. And then eventually it's just kind of, that's your life. I mean, you don't know any better. You know what I mean? You lose those relationships, you lose kind of the vigor for life. I don't know if it's that extreme, but you know what I mean? It's just kind of like work is life and there's really nothing outside of it. And if that's the goal, if that's what I was aiming for, if I did everything right and I ended up in that spot, I realized at that point in time, that's not what I wanted. So I started investing in real estate and, went up from there.
So man, there's a lot of things that you've helped us to understand. And then, having that image of you recognizing that you had partners in the firm that were, in their, I'm going to guess in the late 60s, 70s and stuff like that, that are still in that kind of routine, for lack of a better word. But I guess because man, there's some things that you said that really resonate with me, because I come from a family where both of my parents worked 2 jobs just to make ends meet. I mean, they were, doing things. And so there was this point in my life where I was really focused on money because I didn't really have it. And I was surrounded by, at the same time, I was surrounded by people that actually did. So there was this big disconnect. And I'm wondering, and this is something that whenever I hear a story like yours, I'm just curious as to kind of like, how much do you think you were money focused in the beginning and you were choosing the careers? You said a little bit about that. And then kind of what that feels like today.
Yeah, I think 100% I was focused on money. I mean, to me, that was kind of the decision maker for becoming a doctor to begin with, was they get paid the most. And then who gets paid most after that? Some attorneys, not all attorneys. Yeah. So I went to, become an attorney. And then it was just kind of, okay, well, I don't want to necessarily take, so my first job out of law school, I got an offer to stay in San Diego. It was local. It was a small firm. I was actually already interning there. It would have been a great little job, but it wasn't offering me the most money. So I actually moved back to West Virginia to take the big law firm job to make the most money. So it was 100% all about the money at that point in time. And I think that you're onto something there. I mean, that's kind of the shift in mindset. It's not all about the money. It's about the time. It's like, money is just a tool to get you there, and that there should be to have freedom of time.
So having the freedom of time, and we're just going to go right there, right? Because you just took us right there, which I think is great. So because it takes many people a long time to realize that money or currency is just a byproduct. And so when it becomes the focus, it's a bit of a challenge, but you just you just knocked it out of the park from the very beginning, that the real focus should be on time, or at least in my opinion. I think you share that. Yeah. But maybe if you can talk us through what the evolution has been and why you are now realizing that as an asset, the most important asset that we have is actually our time and the way we use it, and how you're also using that to positively impact other people's lives.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because when you're working, a W-2 and it's a high paying profession, you're probably working a ton of hours, and it's hard to even think about anything else. It's hard to think about. And then, if you do have a few hours, you spend it with your family. So you don't have time to think about, yourself and how you can grow and who you really are and, all that kind of stuff. And it almost takes you a crack in the time for you to carve out the time to think. Give your mind the time to think. And it's amazing the things that you'll come up with. You just start thinking about, oh, well, maybe I should, I should give back. I should be more philanthropic. I mean, there's just a lot of things that come to mind that you didn't have time to even think about when you're working that W-2. And then once that momentum starts, once the wheels start turning, then you're like, okay, well, when I have more time, then I have more time to become myself, to give back, to actually produce more money with less time. It's just kind of a thing. It just starts a little bit at a time, and it grows and grows and grows.
Yeah. And so as it grows and grows, and you start having that perspective where you're taking a look back and you realize, okay, well, sometimes if I just do I know that I make these, multiple six-figure salary, right? And so you're doing that, but then you start looking, okay, I'm working this many hours. So actually the amount that I'm working per hour is actually really not that much. And then when you consider the taxes, because I'm getting crushed on taxes because I earn so much.
Yeah.
And as a W-2 employee, you're just you're paying more than anybody else. So when you really pull back the onion, right, or peel back the onion, as they say, you start realizing, wow, man, I'm almost, I wouldn't say minimum wage is probably exaggeration, but you're really not doing as well as you probably think you are. So it really is about focusing the time. I don't know if this happens a lot in your profession, right? But I'm surrounded many times by people, and we're driven by KPIs, right? Because this is a high sales environment. It's very, stressful and all that other kind of stuff. But sometimes I'll ask people about certain KPIs or key performance indicators that we have to manage our businesses or projects or whatever. And people know more about their KPIs than they know about their own personal, financial statement. And sometimes people don't even know what the personal financial statement is. So I see a huge disconnect between, we say that we want to do a lot of focus on family and things like that, but we know more about our job and the KPIs and the MBOs there than we do about our own life. What's your experience there, Seth?
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's, it kind of alludes to a foundational problem we have growing up, and that's just financial education. We don't have the financial education. All we know is to get a job and trade our time for dollars, and that's it. We don't learn about, entrepreneurship or starting a business or even anything other than writing a check in a checkbook. I don't know if we still do that anymore, but I learned that, and that was about as far as financial education got, man. And it just starts there. I mean, if Robert Kiyosaki didn't write that book, I don't know where we'd be. I mean, he's changed so many lives by just kind of expanding everyone's mind, everybody that reads the book, expanding your mind and just start thinking about, well, wait a minute, is this really a good idea to just go 9 to 5 till 65? And then maybe I'll sip some coconuts on the beach after that, if I still have my health at that point in time. It's probably not a good idea to risk it. That is risky to me. That is risking basically your entire life to be a slave to, your job and your career. There's another way to do it.
Yeah, definitely another way to do it. And one of the things that I know that you're passionate about is really helping people understand, especially high paid professionals, understand that there is another way to do it. But, I'm going to, since I guess this is my show, I can kind of ask a couple of questions that I want. But, and one of the things is the whole premise, right? So, Seth, that I live in Barcelona, Spain, right? And I have been investing in US based tangible assets because it's more than real estate that I've been investing in recently. But, and so I, like a lot of the books, they also say when you're going to get into real estate, be a landlord, you're going to just invest where you can drive and see your property, and that's what you're going to do. And I fundamentally don't believe that, right? And so I know that so many people that are here, yourself included, either actively or passively, you're looking to invest beyond your backyard, right?
Right.
And so my first question always is, because it's very contrarian view to even do that, because the books tell us not to do that. So number one, why would you even consider long distance investing or investing beyond your backyard as a potential option for you? Well, I'll just leave it there. I have another question after that, but why even consider that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to where you live. If you want to live somewhere like Barcelona or San Diego, those aren't the best places to invest in real estate. So that's the first thing. I mean, there are some advantages to investing locally in your backyard, but if you want to live somewhere that's like San Diego or Barcelona, it might not be the best place to invest. So you've got to look elsewhere. You've got to look outside of San Diego and Barcelona and see, where you can get your best returns. Now, when we're talking about active and passive, we can go through each one of those. Active investing in real estate, you have a few more challenges that you and I have both experienced by investing from a distance. Managing contractors, managing your property manager, not seeing the property every single day, things like that. And we can get into some of those challenges later if you want to. But when we're talking about passive investing, it's a little bit different, because I think the most important part of investing passively in commercial real estate is knowing the sponsors, knowing the guys that are running the deals, and making sure that they know what they're doing. It's not necessarily all about the property or all about the market. I mean, those things are obviously really, really important, but it comes down to the sponsors. And you can get to know the sponsors, from a distance, or look at their track records, see what they've done, make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and that they've met their return profiles on a consistent basis. So you can do that from a distance. So you can invest from San Diego, invest from Barcelona in, let's say, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, or Cleveland, Ohio, or Tampa, Florida, or wherever the market dictates. And you can actually get some advantages from doing that, because you can diversify geographically as well.
Yeah. And so I love that you broke that down, right? Because you look at it, you can do that geographical diversification within a similar asset type. And you also, like, one of the things that you mentioned, and I fully am aligned with your thought process here, Seth, is, I always like to talk about when you are looking to invest, whether it's passively or actively, like, you need to be clear on what it is that you want. What's the benefit that you want from the real estate, right? Or from the asset. You want it to provide you tax benefits, cash flow, equity buildup over time. Do you want it to have some type of appreciation? And then based on that, you go to the location that's going to give you the highest probability of being able to get that. And then afterwards, and I completely agree with you, the key is the team. Like, the team has to understand the location, be well entrenched, have a great ecosystem, and understand the dynamics that are happening there. Because whether you're going to do it actively syndicating capital, or you're going to do it passively investing with someone else who's there, you need to understand that the syndicator, the operator, that they understand what they're doing, because then it gives you the flexibility to be able to invest in a 300-unit apartment building, a 12-unit apartment building, a piece of energy equipment, or whatever the case may be, because everything is aligned. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the part that is there. Now, one of the things that you also mentioned, so as a passive investor, and I know this is something that you spend a lot of time on, because we're really high paid professionals, very busy, and it sounds cool, but there's a little bit of hesitation, like, because this is something that is not dialing a 1-800 number and saying, I want to buy this number of whatever. So there's this fear in the back of some people's head because they don't know how to control it. So how do you break through that fear to actually understand more, or some people would call it maybe due diligence as and let's call it as a passive investor? Maybe share some of the things that you've seen work for you and people that you are helping.
Sure. And I'll at least, I share in that trepidation, man. The first time you wire that $50,000 or that $100,000, it gets you up a little shook up. You're like, oh man, did I just get ripped off? Or, is that guy just going to take my money? I mean, no matter how much due diligence you do, the first time you do it, you're like, whoa, what did I, what did I just do? And obviously you become more and more comfortable with it the more that you do it. And you're just like, oh, I get it. This works. These are legitimate people. You've done your due diligence. You've done what you need to do. But I think what it comes down to at the beginning is just education first. Listen to the podcast, read the books, do that sort of thing, and then reach out to people and network. I think networking is big. Talk to other passive investors that have done it before. Ask them about the process. Maybe, talk to sponsors, talk to them, ask them questions, get comfortable with them, kind of get that gut check feeling whether or not you connect with them or not. It just comes down to a comfort level. And that comes with education and I think networking. And at some point you've just got to take action and pull the trigger. I mean, there's a lot of people doing this and a lot of people are doing it more and more nowadays that it's kind of out in the open. It's becoming more mainstream.
Yeah. And as it becomes more and more mainstream, it does become more, I guess, generally accepted or at least visible. But yeah, the first time you do $100,000 wire transfer, I mean, it does. Like you get on a plane, you're traveling, you're seeing people, and you're like, "Did I just do that?"
You get that pit in your stomach, and you're like, "Oh,
okay, I just did that." But then afterwards, when you so having worked with a number of people that are also passive investors, being a passive investor yourself, an active investor, what do you think is one of the biggest? It's not really necessarily one of the biggest things that hold people back, but what is it that the people that are doing it successfully, what is the pattern that you recognize that successful passive investors do over and over?
I'll tell you what, I mean, at first, you want to take that active income and turn that into passive income to begin with. Don't do what I did. What I did was just start flipping houses and, doing rehabs from 2,000 miles away, which I still do, but I've got more time in my hands now. Before I didn't. Before I was at a full-time W-2 at a big law firm, didn't have time to do that stuff. And I was still trying to figure it out. But the smart thing to do is if you have a great W-2, use that active income and use that and invest it into passive syndications. And those passive syndications, once you do kind of your upfront due diligence, which doesn't take a lot of time, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. And it really just comes down to kind of knowing the sponsor, knowing how to read the OM and read the data. It just gets easier and easier. That's what you got to do. And I look at it like buying back your time piece by piece. You invest that active income into a passive syndication once, and you've kind of bought back some time. You're going to get that distribution check every month or every quarter, however it's set up. And to me, it's not money you're getting back. You're getting back time. And then at some point, that passive income can start replacing the active income. Maybe you're like, okay, well, I don't need to make $500,000 a year. Maybe I can live on $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, whatever it might be, and have all this time to spend with my family. And eventually you're going to see your mind, like we mentioned before, is going to open up and you're going to be like, oh, I have time to think. Well, I can actually make money doing this. Maybe I want to start a passion project and that's actually going to create some more income for me. It's just kind of a perpetual thing that just kind of builds up.
Yeah. And so as that continues to build up and you build momentum, it's one of the things that you just said. And I'm curious if you've sat down with people to do this as well. Like sometimes if you're earning, I don't know, let's say you earn $500,000 a year, like it's and you're doing a W-2 job. If you sit down and actually do the math, it may benefit you to, rather than going to work every day and working 60 hours a week to earn $500,000, which actually becomes like 50% of that, depending on what state you live in, it may benefit you just to generate $250,000 passively because of the way that the passive income is taxed in the United States, right? This is a United States kind of focused thing, but like, it depends on, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep, right?
Nailed it.
I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. I mean, as a W-2, you are taxed to the brim, man. And that's the big thing with investing in real estate is the tax benefits that come along with it. And like you said, I mean, if you're making $500,000 a year and you're only keeping $250,000 a year, that's the exact same thing as earning $250,000 a year from real estate and not having to pay any taxes on it. I mean, you just got to put those numbers down on paper and see that they work out. I mean, when you get into entrepreneurship, you get into, starting businesses and you start investing in real estate, you'll see that your taxes go way, way down.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things. And this is also, too, why it's important to have competent professionals on your team, whether that is from a real estate attorney, whether that is your tax team, whether that's your SEC attorney, if you're doing syndications, whether you want to have a general counsel that can advise you on different business kind of things that are happening. But this is the part where the team also comes into play. And sometimes this is or at least I would like to know your take on this. When you're working a W-2 job, especially if you're a high-paid professional, usually these are specialist kind of roles, right? Which means that you do everything. And so making that transition from I do everything, I know everything, I'm the best at what I do, I invest in my stocks, I invest in this, I invest in that, to really having to trust a team to be able to deliver for you. I'm just curious, like how often you've seen that kind of a profile and how you can also help that individual recognize some of the benefits that can happen if we just get out of our own way.
Yeah, it just kind of reminds me of the book Who Not How. So you start thinking about, who knows more than I do. If I'm going into a space like, let's say a passive real estate investment, who do I know or who can I reach out to that already knows what they're doing? Who's the expert in the field? I'm not going to just start from zero and learn everything in a couple of days. I need to reach out to the person that knows who's the expert. It's who, not how. And I think that, again, goes back to the financial education. We grew up in a competitive environment. It's always me versus you. Like I'm first, you're second, you're first, I'm second, compared to like a teamwork approach, which is what happens in a collaborative environment, such as when you're investing in real estate as a team, or you're starting a small business or something. It's a team, it's a collaborative environment. It's totally different than you versus me.
Yeah, when you have that kind of mindset, and I openly admit I come from, because I didn't grow up with much. It's one of the things that I've always struggled with is there is a mentality. It's a scarcity mentality, which if you don't have much, what you do have, you want to keep it all. And once you get to the point where you understand that it's not about trying to keep it, it's about letting it flow, and you really want to connect other people and you want to make the currency continue to move, it's a transition that is very difficult, right? Because I'm going to openly put my hand up and say it's one of those things, but you have to continue to use the muscle to get to the abundant mindset, because it's there where the magic really does start to happen. I don't know what your thought is on that.
Yeah, man, it is. It's tough. And then when you grew up like we did, it's even tougher because we weren't exposed to that. We were all about, earning it, maybe keeping it within our immediate family. Yeah. But that's really it. I mean, you're not trying to help. You don't give away the secret sauce, right? Like if you find something that works, you don't give it away. You keep that tight to the vest. When you get out there in real estate, man, it's totally different nowadays. It's abundance. It's, hey, let me help you, man. I know where you're at. Like, let me help you. Let me explain this to you. And that's what we try to do on the podcast, right, Billy? Like we're trying to give away knowledge. We're trying to educate people so that they can kind of expand their minds and get that abundance mindset as well.
Yeah, which is perfect, man. And that is one of the things and one of the reasons that we're here is to continue to share. This becomes that avenue for us to be abundant and have you share your experience with my tribe, my family, and being able to do the same with yours. But I would love for you to speak specifically to the legal profession, right? Because we also have had some legal professionals, and there are legal professionals that are listening to us, of course, and there's probably a Seth from 10 years ago that's thinking to himself, man, I really want to, I love this job, I really like it, but I feel like there's something else that's out there beyond law.
Yeah.
But I just don't know, because the rail path is everybody says I need to be a partner.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to that person that's thinking, man, something's missing, man. I just don't know, but I'm making so much money and I'm going to be partner X number of days or years or whatever. What do you say to them?
Yeah, man, I actually talk to people like that all the time. I mean, I have people either, different stages of their career. Maybe they're even still in law school and they heard my podcast and they reach out and they say, hey, I listen to your podcast, should I go in? Should I continue with this? And the answer is yes, continue with it. If you have a passion for it, if you feel, if you want to do it. I mean, you definitely need to have some introspection and just think about it. But a lot of people aren't in my shoes where I was just really unhappy. And I was just like, this office environment is not for me. I don't belong here. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of people are okay with that. A lot of people like that journey of moving up the ladder. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think that you definitely need to at least expose them to the idea that you don't want to do this forever, and you might not want to do this forever. Start investing outside of, your active income so you can create more alternative income streams so that you can start buying back your time. And then maybe you can scale back half time. Maybe you can scale back 75% time. A lot of workplaces, especially law offices, have been really traditional and rigid, and you have to build this many hours a year, and it's just this way or you're out. But actually lately, and I think COVID kind of expedited the process a little bit, that you can go 75% time, you can go 50% time, and you might take a 50% or 75% pay cut, but you can still do something that you kind of enjoy, or you actually enjoy it, and you can start spending some more time with your family and doing the things you want to do.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like you said, it's getting and using the time and doing the things that you really want to do with the people that you want to do it with and when you want to do it, which I think is phenomenal. What about this fear? Right. Because there's another thing, like, I know it took me a really long time to do the podcast because, once again, I'm in a high paid role, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. And I really hid for a long time because I didn't want people to think, well, man, you know what? I'm actually focused on doing other stuff. Like, and there are people that are in your profession, just like in my profession, that they're thinking to themselves, like, I can't tell anybody that I actually could consider doing something outside of this job where they pay me a whole lot of money. What do you say to that person?
I say you actually need to be careful, man. I mean, if you're at a W-2 where they're pretty conservative, they're rigid, you actually do need to be pretty careful with that. I know at law firms specifically, you need to be careful. I actually got laid off from my last job. It was a blessing in disguise. But from doing that, I tried to be open going into it. I tried to say, hey, I'm in real estate. I do deals. But if there's a conflict of interest, I will let you guys know. If I even see a potential conflict of interest, I'll let you know in advance. And I let them know about all this stuff up front. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter. When they started kind of looking at the deals I was doing, they were like, this is too much of a risk for us. And I ended up getting laid off of that last job. And that made me hang my own shingle, start my own firm, and kind of expand my wings from there.
Okay. So in your instance, then it was more of because there was a perceived conflict of interest. Because you were practicing law in the real estate arena, I guess. So maybe that's a little bit different. But I mean, so like someone who is so I can kind of see that, because that where's a conflict of interest. Whereas there are a lot of people that are in high paid roles, but they're not actually, they're just doing something. There's no conflict of interest, but because you're making a lot of money, people assume that you can only do this one thing, right? And so, your case is a little bit different. I always say definitely be aware of it, but I don't know anybody that is in a corporate role that the only thing that they do is that one thing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think that, your job and your bosses, they understand that. And especially if we're talking about investing passively in real estate, something like that, that is not a conflict of interest. That's something that your bosses probably already do. You don't even realize it. I mean, that's what the wealthy do. I mean, they invest in real estate. So they already do it. So, they're not gonna call you out on something like that.
Yeah. It's just it is one of those things that is just kind of it always kind of persists in the air a bit. And whenever I get to speak to other high paid professionals, I always just want to get your thought and your opinion on that. So one of the things that we haven't really talked about, but I want to have you open up and talk to the Going Long family about the Passive Income Attorney podcast. Talk to us about it. I think the name says it all, but I mean, who are you really going out helping? Talk to us a little bit about it so we can also get to know more about you and the podcast, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. I think it's really similar to yours, man. I mean, I'm helping to educate attorneys and other high income professionals about investing in real estate and other alternative investments. We do some different shows on e-commerce, on starting kind of a side hustle or side businesses, mostly about real estate, because that's just my world and that's my favorite asset to invest in. But we want to provide the full swath of alternative investments, including Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and gold and silver, oil and gas, things like that. But it's all about creating multiple streams of income, so that if you get to that point in your career that you're unhappy or you want to create more time for yourself and more freedom for yourself, you can walk away and not feel bad about it and be able to pay your bills and live a good life, even without that single active income stream.
Awesome, man. So that's cool. And, everybody from the Going Long family, I'm going to say, go over and check out Seth and his podcast. It's awesome. And also too, Seth, that one of the things that just came to my mind is, like, we're two guys who come from a background that, it sounds very much similar, and that kind of, and not in a negative way, but just a scarcity mindset. You have very little, so you want to keep the things that you have. And the two of us are, some people would say, well, we're in competing spaces. And the reality is we don't perceive it that way, because it's like, how can I help Seth to get introduced to more people, tell his story, and you're kind enough to be able to do the same for me. So I think what we're doing, or I don't think, but we're demonstrating that it is possible for anyone and everyone to start in one place and be able to evolve and be able to help and share and build this abundant mindset muscle, and being able to do it on a day-to-day basis. So you just mentioned that, and I was like, you know what, this is a good example of how we're evolving.
Exactly, man. Yeah, it's amazing how when you start giving away, your time and giving away, your knowledge to people, that, it just comes back around to you. It just does tenfold. It's crazy how the world works. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, man, but that's what it is, man. It's all about abundance. It's just be open and honest with people. Get out there, network, and just, be a beacon of knowledge for people, and it comes back to you.
Yeah, it definitely does come back to you. And one of the things, and we're aligned here, be abundant, don't be naive. Be abundant, don't be naive. So this is not like naivety or naivete, however you want to say it, but it is about being abundant, right? And so this is awesome. I'm enjoying the conversation. It's one of these things where, like, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add before we go into the Going Long final three, but I'll give you that opportunity if there's anything you wanted to add to our last comment.
I don't think so, man. I think that we nailed it with the abundance mindset. That's such a big thing. I mean, once you have kind of that abundance mindset, which actually comes with freeing up your time, man, you've got to figure out a way to free up some time so that you have some clear headspace to have that abundance mindset and to be able to discover yourself. And it just goes, without saying that's what you've got to do, man. You've got to free your time away from that W-2. So that you can expand your mindset.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So I appreciate that. And yeah, man, Seth, we got to get into Going Long final three, man. So the thing is, I never ask anybody, well, you already answered, because I always ask you, are you ready to go? You ready?
Oh, let's do it.
Born ready. I love it. So here we go. So the very first of the Going Long final three, we started with you over in wonderful, beautiful San Diego. Now I'd like to bring it back to this side of the pond, which is really helping us understand, Seth, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or is still on your bucket list to visit?
I would say Barcelona, right where you're at, man. We talked about this the first time we spoke, man. I think it's Barcelona. As soon as I saw that city, I was like, I could actually live here. And that was coming from San Diego, probably because it's very similar. Yeah. But I studied abroad there for about 2 months during law school and just fell in love with the city.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And I'm looking forward to you coming back, and I'll show you around my new adopted hometown again. So
there we go.
Open invitation, man. Open invitation.
Would love to.
Awesome. So listen, second question for the Going Long final three. And this is really something that I've noticed in all successful people. The thing is, and Seth, you're a very successful person. The thing with successful people is that they tend to only make one mistake along their entire trajectory. Did I just say that again? I get that wrong every single time. I think it's by design, by the way. Everybody on the Going Long family knows it's by design. But no, the reality is, look, so as a successful person, and all jokes aside, there is something about successful people that they do differently, because we all make mistakes or have learning opportunities or whatever you want to call it. But the successful people do something very differently. It's when those mistakes happen they actually take away a lesson, and they don't just take away the lesson, they implement the lesson, like, right, moving forward. So what is like one, not necessarily, I don't want you to have to share what the mistake was, but what was the lesson that you learned that you know by sharing it with me and the Going Long family that it's going to be beneficial to us?
Sure. I would say, don't be afraid to quit. And I know that sounds kind of negative, but you don't want to be a quitter. If you commit to something, try to finish it. But don't be afraid to start down a pathway and see that it's not the right pathway and back out and start anew. Go a different journey, go a different pathway. I've done that a couple of different times in my life, with medical school, with working at a big law firm. Those seem like great pathways. They seem like spectacular pathways, and they are for some people, but not for me. And I was able to have the confidence and the wherewithal to say, you know what, this isn't for me. Even if I continued down that pathway, I probably would have been just fine, but that's not my pathway. So, evaluate what you're doing. And if it's not right, just stop and go a different direction.
Yeah, right on. So don't be afraid to stop, pivot, and do the thing that is is going to be the right thing for you. So appreciate that and sharing that. And then lastly, man, Seth, we really want to finish up by helping people to feed their mind. So what is the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family?
I would say I just finished this a little while ago, and I've loved it. It's the first autobiography I've ever read, and it was Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey. Unbelievable book. And it's not really a book that you want to read. It's one of the books you want to listen to, because he speaks it, he talks it, you can hear the emotion in his voice, and he's obviously got a great voice and a great emotional tone to it. So it's awesome. And he's got all these different, even though it's an autobiography, he's got all these different little life lessons and one-liners that he shares throughout the book, and it's incredible.
All right, Green Lights. So we're going to add that to the show notes, along with a number of other things. And I'm just thinking, man, I'm just going back, and I'm remembering the very beginning of the conversation where you're talking about where you shared with us, with being the son of a coal miner and a teacher in West Virginia, and really not the things that you had, and there were also things that you wanted. And the fact that you wanted to be able to go out and you were focused on money, and you recognized that you wanted to go into a high paid profession early on, which was medical school. You were on the way, and you realized, you know what? This ain't for me. So you got up and you made a pivot, right? It was time to quit that. You pivoted and decided you still wanted to focus on the money, and you went out and you found law, focused on law, were able to do that. After school, you decided to travel back to West Virginia to get the high paid role, because that's what you were focused on and that's what you wanted. And at the same time, there was a moment where you recognized that you also wanted to be able to do something more than just become partner in a firm, because you saw the guys that were 70 years old and that's the only thing that they were doing, and you realized that that wasn't for you. So it wasn't that you quit that, because you haven't, but you started to pivot and you started to realize, I need to create other streams of income for myself. And so then you realize, while you're across the table from other people, like, wow, these people are doing these major deals. I can do this. So you decided to take action. You got in the game. You started to build relationships. You started to meet more people. You understood that if you're going to live in San Diego, it's probably not the right place for you if you want to build up cash flow. So you then even went and decided, you know what, I'm going to put this long distance or remote investing in my arsenal, and you started to continue to do that and build networks and build relationships with people, and you're helping people understand the value in investing passively. And I know that I love talking to you, and I know that so many people here that are listening or watching us from the Going Long family are like, I got to get in touch with Seth. This guy's got so much stuff going on. How can I find out more about him? So share with us, Seth, what's the best way for the Going Long family to contact you and get in touch with you and understand more about what you and your team are doing?
Yeah, check out my podcast, Passive Income Attorney Podcast. Is available on all platforms, or go to passiveincomeattorney.com. We've got tons of content on there, videos and the podcast recordings and blog posts and all kinds of stuff. And you can find me on all social media platforms. Just look me up, Seth Paul Bradley.
Cool. Awesome. So when you look up Seth Paul Bradley on the platforms, especially a lot of people here like to use LinkedIn, do Seth and I a favor. make sure that you reference that you heard him here on the Going Long podcast. It just makes it easier for you and Seth to continue the conversation. Like, don't just send him no kind of comments or any of that kind of stuff, because it makes it difficult for him to realize where it came from, because he's a busy guy and he's very, very popular. So with that, I would also recommend to go check out the website as well. I've been over there. It's really well designed, laid out, lots of valuable resources there as well. So check it out, the Going Long family. And Seth, listen, man, I really appreciate you taking the time investing with me and on the entire Going Long family. So thank you very much.
Billy, appreciate it, man. Looking forward to paying you a visit in Barcelona.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. Going to be awesome. So thank you. Appreciate it. And Seth, if you give me just a second, man, I want to just give a couple words to the Going Long family before we head out of here. So really quickly, Going Long family, didn't you love that? I mean, Seth just left so much value with us. He gave us strategic ways to think about things, tactical ways that you can implement, and also continue to create new streams of income. High-paid professionals, there's so many of you that are here, and it was amazing. And you know that what Seth shared today, like at least you know 2 or 3 other people that need to hear this message today. So take a second, you've got your iPhone, just share today's episode with 2 or 3 other people that you know need to hear this. You're going to also be the person that gets to make a positive impact on those people. You're also attracting other people to the Going Long family. And that's something that we want to continue to do to grow the community, have other like-minded people around us. And so it's something that I know Seth and I would both appreciate. At the same time, if you can take just a couple seconds and leave us an honest review, like what you thought about today's conversation, what value points were interesting to you, what would you like to hear next time that Seth comes back and joins us? These are the types of things that are very, very helpful. You all know that I go through each and every one of these reviews to continue to make the podcast more focused for the things that you want to be able to do. So if you can just take a couple seconds to leave that honest review, would be greatly appreciated. And you know what? I'm really looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much.
Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? You know, when I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long-distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.